Chapter 6 Full scented. Not bad. All paid off. Gaotu couldn't believe his ears. After his parents divorced, his mother left with his infant sister, leaving Gaotu to grow up with his father. When he was 19 years old, his mother died in an accident, leaving his severely injured sister as his responsibility. Expecting his gambling, alcoholic father to bear the burden of exorbitant medical costs was unrealistic. Thankfully, Gaotu had been working part-time jobs since the age of 14 to support himself. Taking care of his sister was simply a matter of adding a few more jobs to his already heavy workload, but the long-term medical expenses were far more expensive than he had anticipated, and the effort required to care for a sick patient was far more exhausting than he had imagined. If it weren't for Sheng Wenlang's frequent financial support, they might never have made it to this day of the surgery. Even so, the daunting 800,000 yuan surgery fee left Gaotu scrambling for solutions. Just as he was fretting over how to cover his sister's surgery costs, the attending doctor suddenly requested a meeting with him. Nervously stepping into the doctor's office, Gaotu assumed the discussion would revolve around postponing surgery. To his surprise, the doctor began explaining preoperative precautions instead. Assuming the doctor had managed to negotiate a post-surgery payment arrangement, Gaotu hastily assured him, "I'll make sure to pay the remaining amount as soon as possible." But the doctor looked at him calmly and said, "The payment for the patient in bed 291 has already been fully paid." Gaotu, however, hadn't paid that much money. He rushed to the payment registration office in confusion, only to be informed that someone had indeed covered the entire cost for his sister. Could it be a mistake? Did someone pay for the wrong bed number? The cashier, whose auditing ability was questioned, felt a bit aggrieved and firmly said, "That's impossible." Then confidently added, "Your sister is in the HS Group Employee Family Ward. I remember it very clearly. The person who paid the fee was a very handsome S-level alpha. I even confirmed the bed number with him multiple times. There's no way it's a mistake. A very handsome S-level alpha." Gaotu's mind immediately conjured up Sheng Wenlang's strikingly handsome, fierce, and incredibly good-looking face. Did he say his name? Or leave any contact information? The cashier quickly checked the records. He did, but all payment details are confidential. Sheng Shaoyou never answered calls from unknown numbers. But that day, while drinking together, Li Baiqia saw with his own eyes that he answered a call from a number with no saved contact without any hesitation. Curious, Li Baiqia leaned over, straining his ears in an attempt to eavesdrop on the conversation. Unfortunately, the private room was too noisy for him to make out a single word. "Who is it?" He exaggerated his lip movements to mouth a question at Sheng Shaoyou, but Sheng Shaoyou ignored him. Undeterred, the ever-curious Li Baiqia boldly leaned closer, hoping to hear what was going on. Sheng Shaoyou disdainfully pressed a hand against his face and shoved him away. "You're so stingy," Li Baiqia muttered with a pout. Today, Li Baiqia had brought along a young beta boy as his companion. Sensing his displeasure, the beta poured him a glass of sweet fruit wine in an attempt to soothe him. Li Baiqia drank it directly from the beta's hand, sensually licking the boy's slender, fair fingers that rested on the glass as he drank. This time, Sheng Shaoyou's companion was Nu-Face, a young female Omega with a graceful slender figure and alluring curves, whose pheromone scent carried a full fragrance. The moment they walked in, Li Baiqia couldn't resist teasing him. "Yo, you finally remembered to bring someone along. Lately, our elegant and charming President Sheng has been attending all these gatherings alone and refused to take a companion from the gathering. It made me, this old father, constantly worry about you spending long, lonely nights." The second-generation circle in Jiang, who was famously known for their love of having fun. Li Baiqiao's knack for cracking jokes wasn't new, and Sheng Shaoyou couldn't be bothered to deal with him. At the moment, Sheng Shaoyou was focused on his phone call, completely ignoring the others. Feeling bored, Li Baiqia turned his attention to the Omega girl sitting beside Sheng Shaoyou. "Little beauty, what's your name?" "Xuexian." The Omega responded with a sweet, radiant smile, completely at ease. Despite his notoriously debauched private life, Li Baiqia had a refined, gentlemanly appearance. Smiling, he remarked, "Well-pleasing name, Xuexian, just like seeing you, it's refreshing and delightful." Xuexian was a first-year student at the film academy and had only recently started dating Sheng Shaoyou. This morning, she had been told last minute that she accompanied him to meet his friends. She'd been ecstatic all day, constantly bragging to her best friend and practically wanting to announce to the world that she'd finally snagged the famous super-rich second-generation heir Sheng Shaoyou of Jianghu. Anyone who could hang out with Sheng Shaoyou was definitely not an ordinary person. When the refined and gentle Li Baiqiao took the initiative to strike up a conversation, Shu Exan's heartbeat sped up significantly. As they made small talk, Li Baiqiao kept an eye on Sheng Shaoyou. The moment Sheng Shaoyou hung up, Li Baiqiao immediately leaned over and said with a grin, "Shaoyou, you've been acting very differently lately." Sheng Shaoyou seemed to be in a good mood, his lips curving into a smile as he raised an eyebrow. "Oh? How so? Not only did you randomly answer a stranger's call, but your preferences have changed too." With his keen sense of smell, Li Baiqiao leaned towards Xu Xian and took a sniff. "How come you suddenly switched to floral scents? Weren't you always into fruity ones?" Sniffing an Omega's pheromones without permission was blatantly suggestive and crossed the line into harassment. Xu Xian, flustered by the boldness of the supposedly refined Li Baiqiao, blushed crimson and cast a pleading glance at Sheng Shaoyou, silently asking for help. But Sheng Shaoyou didn't even spare her glance. He lazily leaned back on the sofa, letting Li Baiqiao continue with his shameless chatter. "Laozi has been raving about the charm of full-scented beauties to you for years, but you never cared, insisting that you only love fruity ones. So, what now?" Finally discovered the allure of full scents, Li Baiqiao leaned in closer and closer. As an alpha, his pheromone level wasn't low either. The lack of boundaries in his behavior embarrassed Xu Xian, and the overwhelming scent of alpha pheromones was almost too much for her. Her legs felt like it might give out. Sheng Shaoyou seemed to recall something, leaning back with an arm behind his head. A faint smile tugged at his lips, revealing a sliver of white teeth as he casually commented, "Floral scented, not bad." "What the heck, you got to be kidding me." Li Baiqiao had known Sheng Shaoyou for over a decade, and the two had always had a clear division of roles. Li Baiqiao was in charge of talking nonsense, while Sheng Shaoyou was in charge of watching him from the sidelines with a cold, detached gaze. Today, Sheng Shaoyou unexpectedly graced them with his presence and took the initiative to actively join the conversation, a surprising action that left Li Baiqiao completely stunned. It's just answering a phone call, yet his mood actually improved so much. Unbelievable. Li Baiqiao's curiosity burned hotter. Just who on earth did that mysterious number, the one he failed to eavesdrop on earlier, belong to? The first time Hua Yong called, the line was disconnected. He set the phone down, staring at the number he'd saved as Sheng Shaoyou with no visible emotion on his pale face. That handsome and arrogant alpha wouldn't even deign to personally accept a business card from a secretary of a partner company. So, refusing calls from an unknown number was hardly surprising. With this thought, Hua Yong pressed his lips together, typing out a short text to explain his identity and purpose before attempting the call again. This time, it connected. The background on Sheng Shaoyou's end was noisy, chaotic music mingled with laughter from both men and women. It was hardly an ideal time for a conversation. Hua Yong frowned. "Amar, Sheng, if you're busy, I can call back later." "I'm not busy," Sheng Shaoyou replied. "Is there something you need?" "Go ahead and say it." There was a brief silence on the other end of the phone. The Omega seemed hesitant, his soft breaths amplified over the line, making Sheng Shaoyou feel a peculiar itch in his chest. But he didn't say anything to interrupt, waiting patiently for the little orchid, who owed him a favor, to walk right into his net. "Amar Sheng," Hua Yong finally spoke. His voice soft, nothing like the fiery determination he'd had when he stormed out of the elevator, saying he didn't mind being the object of his venting. Now, he sounded gentle and hesitant. "Did you pay for the surgery fees?" Sheng Shaoyou listened with satisfaction to the little orchid's gentle tone. When he didn't reply, Hua Yong, sounding both warm and anxious, continued, "I don't know why you did this, but I really want to thank you. I'll repay the money as soon as possible. Besides money, is there nothing else you want to say to me?" Hua Yong froze, falling silent as if racking his brain for anything else worth discussing between him aside from money, before Sheng Shaoyou's patience ran out and his mood soured again. Hua Yong softly spoke up. "May I ask if Mr. Sheng is free this Saturday? I'd like to treat you to a meal." "Saturday." Sheng Shaoyou's lips curled into a faint smile, though his tone carried a hint of hesitation. "I already have plans." "I see. My apologies." I've made plans with some friends. Why don't you come directly to where I'll be? Sheng Shaoyou interrupted before Hua Yong could propose a different arrangement. The other end of the line went quiet again. Sheng Shaoyou could tell he was reluctant, so he smiled and added pressure. If it's inconvenient for Secretary Hua, then just forget it. No, it's convenient. Please send me the address. Sure enough, the little orchid agreed. Weekends in Jiang were never short of gatherings, usually grand and lively, filled with glamour and opulence, but ultimately hollow at their core. This time, the event was held at Li Baixiao's new clubhouse, located in the Twin Towers, a landmark in Jianghu. Sheng Shaoyou and Hua Yong met at the entrance on the basement level. The parking garage was lined with an array of luxury cars. Attendants and security personnel stood at the entrance, carefully verifying the guests' invitations. This was an exclusive gathering with a small guest list, only about 30 people in total. Out of all the attendees, Hua Yong seemed to be the only one who arrived by taxi. The taxi was stopped at the underground passage entrance by a security guard. The concierge, expressionless, checked Hua Yong's invitation. The invitation didn't bear his name, only stating that it permitted an accompanying guest. The security guard, a tall male at level alpha, scrutinized Hua Yong's face. Judging by his stunning appearance, he had already formed an impression of this Omega as an escort. Though polite, his tone was detached as he said, "I'm sorry, sir, but this is a private garden. Commercial vehicles are not permitted." Inside, Hua Yong nodded, stepped out of the car, and immediately spotted Sheng Shaoyou, who had just exited his own vehicle. Sheng Shaoyou wore a long trench that reached past his knees, with the latest season's coats on Glaze's double-collar knit sweater underneath. The ribbed cuffs peeked out from his sleeves, and behind him, in VIP exclusive parking spot, sat a dazzlingly black phantom. He was half a head taller than the bodyguards behind him. After stepping out of the car, he stood in the entrance area with his hands in his pockets. The attendants and security didn't even need to check his invitation. This S-level alpha, with nothing but his proud and aloof demeanor, had already declared to the world that he was born to belong here. He was a native of this opulent arena of wealth and fame, one of the privileged few born with a silver spoon in his mouth. Sheng Shaoyou's gaze soon landed on Hua Yong. Perhaps because it was the weekend, Hua Yong wasn't dressed in his usual shirt and formal attire. This delicate yet somewhat stubborn orchid wore a very student-like turtleneck sweater, with most of his face buried in soft, fluffy collar. It made his face look even smaller, and his chin sharper. His attire was entirely out of place for the occasion. If it had been any other companion, Sheng Shaoyou would have immediately lost his temper and told them to get lost. But today, surprisingly, he wasn't angry. In fact, he even called out to Hua Yong himself. "What are you standing there for? Come over here already." Hua Yong immediately stepped toward him, looking a bit embarrassed as he explained, "I'm sorry. You said it was a gathering, so I thought Elle didn't know it would be such a formal occasion. If it's inconvenient, I can leave right away." "Leave? What for?" Sheng Shaoyou looked him over from head to toe. Seeing that pale face partially hidden by the collar shrink slightly under his gaze, he couldn't help but chuckle. "Just like this is fine. It's good." Hua Yong glanced at him, his expression a little complicated. Sheng Shaoyou interpreted that look as gratitude, which only improved his mood further. Unlike earlier, when Hua Yong had been left to awkwardly disembark from a taxi at the parking garage entrance. This time no one even thought to ask them for an invitation along the way. Sheng Shaoyou's presence alone seemed to serve as the ultimate pass. Wherever he went, the world seemed adorned with flowers and brimming with pleasantries. Smiles and greetings surrounded them, paired with an air of fawning hospitality. Sheng Shaoyou had long grown accustomed to this treatment, but Hua Yong appeared to find everything novel. His beautiful eyes darted about, observing the surroundings with unconcealed curiosity. "Sheng Wenlang never brought you to gatherings?" Sheng Shaoyou asked. "No," Hua Yong replied. "He just started working recently. President Shen always takes Secretary Gao to these kinds of things." "Oh." Sheng Shaoyou felt a smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. "So today's your first time?" "Ah, yes." Hua Yong nodded, clearly nervous. He instinctively moved a little closer to Sheng Shaoyou, much like a cat going on its first walk outside with its owner. Without even realizing it, he reached out to grip Sheng Shaoyou's arm, asking, "Emma Sheng, do you think how I'm dressed is inappropriate?" "What's inappropriate about it?" Hua Yong fell silent for a moment before saying, "That I might embarrass you." Sheng Shaoyou found himself laughing more than usual today. This orchid was quite amusing, and he couldn't resist teasing him. He put on a stern face and pretended to be upset. A little bit, yes. Hua Yong predictably fell for it. His face flushed, and he pressed his lips together in embarrassment. After a moment of silence, he said hesitantly, "Then maybe I should leave? I can invite you for dinner another day." Saying this, he stopped in his tracks, let go of Sheng Shaoyou's arm, and stepped back as if preparing to flee. But Sheng Shaoyou reached out and caught him. His fair hand was smooth and delicate, truly as soft as the petals of a cymbidium orchid. "Where are you going?" Sheng Shaoyou coaxed him. "You're already here. Don't worry about it. My reputation is big enough, losing a little because of you won't matter. You can treat me to a meal another day, but no buts. You've already embarrassed me enough with what you're wearing. If you run off now, leaving me to attend alone, it'll be even worse." Sheng Shaoyou lied without hesitation. "Since I'm already doomed to lose face, I'll just choose the lesser of two evils. But next time I invite you to a gathering, you'd better dress properly." Hua Yong lowered his head and thought for a moment before softly replying, "Let's skip the next time." Sheng Shaoyou's expression darkened instantly. Narrowing his eyes, he asked, "Skip it, hum?" Hua Yong replied calmly, "I don't have any suitable clothes for events like this." Sheng Shaoyou's heart felt as if it had been scratched by a cat, both itchy and painful. But hearing that Hua Yong wasn't rejecting him, just like improper attire, he relaxed and grinned. "Clothes. That's easy. I'll have Chen Pinming take you to pick out a few good outfits another day." Hua Yong opened his mouth as if to respond, but a familiar face who hadn't seen Sheng Shaoyou in a long time patted him on the shoulder and struck up a conversation. Hua Yong sensibly refrained from interrupting. Once they entered the venue, people kept coming over to greet Sheng Shaoyou at his seat without pause. Li Baiqiao's seat was right next to Sheng Shaoyou's left. As the host, he had been making rounds to greet everyone but finally returned to his place. Smiling as he said to Sheng Shaoyou, "Damn, I host these parties every week, but it's never this lively when you're not here." As he looked up, his gaze unintentionally swept past Sheng Shaoyou's right side, and he visibly froze. Hua Yong sat quietly on Sheng Shaoyou's right, eyes lowered. Under the banquet's lighting, his cool-toned skin seemed to glow, and even in the simplest clothes, his stunning beauty was impossible to overlook. "And who is this?" Hearing Li Baiqiao's question, Hua Yong slowly raised his eyelashes to look at him. There wasn't much emotion in that glance, yet still made Li Baiqiao's heart race. Nudging Sheng Shaoyou with his elbow, he asked, "Where do you find this treasure?" Sheng Shaoyou chuckled. "None of your business where I found him." Li Baiqia stood up and walked around to stand behind Hua Yong. Leaning down, he come on, sniffed lightly and exclaimed in surprise, "This one's full scented too." Startled by his frivolous behavior, Hua Yong abruptly stood up. His shoulder collided with Li Baiqiao's nose, making him stumble backward while covering his nose. "Fuck. That was rough. Sorry." Hua Yong coldly apologized to him, though his expression showed no trace of remorse. His nose was delicately shaped, with a sharp tip that further emphasized the bold and striking beauty of his features. It was like a dagger, piercing the gaze of anyone who looked at him. Li Baiqia was completely disarmed by such sharp beauty. Clutching his nose, he laughed and said, "Aya, I was just checking the scent." "Little beauty, don't be mad." He tried to lean in again, but the obvious rejection on Hua Yong's face made him hesitate. Reluctantly, Li Baiqia raised both hands in a gesture of surrender and said, "Fine, at least tell me your name, won't you?" "Hua Yong." Hua Yong replied, glancing briefly at Sheng Shaoyou with a hint of dissatisfaction and a silent plea for help in his eyes. Despite his claim of backing off, Li Baiqia moved closer again, stretching out his arm as if to drape it over Hua Yong's shoulders. Sheng Shaoyou admired Hua Yong's subtly shifting expressions for a moment, the mixture of annoyance and resignation as he refrained from causing a scene out of respect, and just as Li Baiqiao's hand was about to land on Hua Yong's stiff shoulders, Sheng Shaoyou stood up, swatting the hand away with faint anger. Harassing my companion right in front of me, Li Baiqiao, can you act like a normal person for once? What do you mean? How am I not acting normal? The back of his hand was left red from Sheng Shaoyou's forceful swat. Li Baiqiao awkwardly withdrew his hand, thinking to himself, wasn't harassing his friend's companions just part of his usual routine? Sheng Shaoyou never seemed to care before, so why the sudden overreaction today? Tisk, he's really struck gold this time, snagging himself a celestial beauty. Can't even take a sniff, huh? This delicate, untouchable flower shear has quite a temper. What? Will a little touch make him lose a piece of flesh or something?